Wake up. You're beautiful. Love.
Hi, my name is Kasandra White. I am a obstetrician gynecologist. I am a licensed physician and surgeon. I focus on women's health between obstetrics and gynecology. I have had the opportunity to work in many community organizations where we focus on challenging the health disparities that exist. Much of my work has gone beyond clinical medicine into community advocacy. So much of my time has also been working and developing partnerships with many community organizations, either through youth programs or particularly women's health programs. My time continues to focus on where can I bring the most impact in terms of not just my profession, but also as an individual. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds and continuing to work with not only BLX, but also all the entities that are looking to bring value to what our community needs. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have Dr. White.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who you are.
That is me.
You earned it. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about who you are?
Well, I born and raised right here in the Bay Area.
Right.
I had a single parent household, and really thrived off the sense of community and village to be able to get to where I am now at this point in place.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about your money know-how.
My money know-how. Where did it start? I think about growing up that we were in a situation where we only knew how to survive.
Right.
We were trying to go day by day. My mother was working every day, ends meet. I had a great grandfather that was big on just saving, but never really understood what it meant to thrive and create wealth, I think. How he valued money. He would always have this phrase, a penny makes a nickel makes a dime makes a quarter and goes beyond. So he'd always save your money. He was one to bury his money in the backyard. Which was something that we thought about whenever you get some sort of money, either from birthdays or Christmas presents, save your money. I think about a time when I was growing up when my mother didn't have daycare. She did have a boyfriend that worked for the Oakland airport. And what she would do is have me go with him to work. And I was maybe about 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I could not stand it because there was no kids, there wasn't anything for me to do. So what I had to look at was how do I take what I have around me and make it work for me.
Right.
And I think that's just being in the type of environment and space where you didn't have much, but you used what you did have. And so those moments that I think about what I was creating in terms of some sense of money sense was, how can I capitalize on being at this Oakland airport? So I started noticing that travelers were going to the cart station. And the cart station is where they would rent the carts for 75 cents. And it was a way that they could put all their luggage on the cart and take the cart to the car. Yeah. So what I would do is I would approach the travelers and say, hey, can I help you push the cart to your car? And how could they say no? So I would help them push the cart to their car, but I knew that once they were finished with the cart, they didn't want to go back into the Oakland airport to return the cart. So that's where I came in and I said, well, I'll take it back for you. And just because they thought I was being a good kid and a nice gesture, sometimes they would tip me. But the other focus was I wanted to get back that 25 cents a return for each cart.
Oh.
So it worked out well. So there I think about this particular time where I began to think about how can I make things work for myself? How can I find a solution to a problem? But I also was making money at 7 years old.
Right.
So that's something I think even today that I carry with me in terms of decision making and where problem solving can be beneficial for all of us.
Right. Don't discount those starter roles.
No.
I mean, my dad owned a gas station, and when I was like 7, 8, I was the cashier.
Wow.
And we didn't have no calculators, and I was counting money back.
There you go.
You know? I mean, customer service, being able to count money is a skill set.
It is.
That a lot of people
right.
Still trying to learn how to do.
And when it comes to money, food, and health, people don't play with that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about your profession.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know you wanted to be a medical doctor?
Yeah, it came from, and again, growing up with this sense of curiosity and asking questions. Wondering why there were people in places that had and those that did not have. Then I also think about the experiences with seeing how my grandmother was treated when she went to the hospital, the care that she did not receive, the frustration, the conversations that took place when we would come home. That made me question how is the system working and not working. And that was most likely the initial desire to become a physician. As far as going into women's health, that had to do with the thought of, why am I seeing teenage pregnancy? Why is my best friend with 2 kids in high school? What is the reasoning for that? Is there some sense of where there's a lacking of education in our bodies that we may not have been given? So that opened my eyes to the direction of working into women's health and becoming an OBGYN. And yeah, that's a big part of why I do what I do is education. Right.
And then talk about, so you went to UC Davis.
Yes.
Aggies in the house.
Yeah, Aggies.
They here.
Yeah. It was close to the Bay, but very different.
You had a non-HBCU experience.
No.
We call it PWI. Predominantly white institution.
Yes, that is exactly what it was. The 2% that existed at UC Davis that held many challenges.
Yeah.
But also was a subset of what most of this environment looks like.
Right.
Especially if we're thinking of investments and things of that sort. Medicine of that sort. Where's that representation? So that was the first challenges of education that I experienced.
So let's talk about your journey to angel investing. Did you know about it? How'd you find out about it? No, nobody told you nothing?
Nothing. Had no idea. No, I didn't. Angel. No. You would notice, like, how is this person driving that nice car, or how are these people wearing these nice clothes? So again, asking those questions, like, what do you do? Yeah, I think there's a show out there where there's this guy that goes up to different people who are driving these nice cars, and he asks them, what do you do for a living? So I was that little that kid. Because and it wasn't so much about materialistics, but just understanding the economics, how those, again, the haves, have-nots in that sense. So once I finished residency, I began looking into different opportunities to take part in different companies. And it was more focused on There were things that I liked and I thought that were great concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Did I know there was a term for it? No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it was just my chance to be a part of something that I thought was really a great idea or a great company that could show potential growth. So knowing the terms, the terminology, absolutely had no idea. But it was something I had been doing at least after residency.
So how do you spot out a good company for investment?
I typically pay attention to what I call are the I's, as in the letter I's. So I look at what is the intent. So what is what is the intent? What is the goal of the company? I look at the inclusivity. So what is the makeup of the workforce? What is the makeup of the board? The other is the impact. So how does it affect those in our community? How does it affect the service? How does it affect the market? And then obviously as an investor, you think about what is the investing piece? What is the ultimate return? What is the incentive that it gets? So those are ideally the questions that I ask myself. And then ask of the organization or the company. And a lot of times they don't have all those pieces. Like they're may not in line with a social impact, but they may provide great services to some type of niche and whatnot.
Right.
Those are ideally things that I pay attention to.
Yeah, I love that concept, the eyes.
The eyes, the letter I's. It's my little thing.
So tell me about your investments.
So one of them that I really have taken great interest with, and which is the reason why I decided to become an investor, it was a company called Bridge to College. A friend of mine who I went to high school with, she was born and raised here in the Bay Area. She's an educator. Decided to create this. It's a algorithm that helps students match to a college institution, but match on the lines that are geared to making sure that school is affordable, and also looking at making sure that they have an environment that's supportive of their needs, and which are important because that leads to retention. They're more than likely to go ahead and finish college and get their degrees as opposed to just either staying longer or dropping out. So she created Bridge to College to really focus on that and using technology to do that. So working with schools and universities is where her focus is, at least with the company. So using technology and education hand in hand.
I love it. Well, let's talk about that connection, because a lot of angel investing is done in network, right?
True.
So you've known her since high school.
Yes.
You know what she's capable of. You
know
what
her
she's
work
about.
ethic, exactly.
So it's probably easier for you to write a check.
It was, but it's still, for me, I've always known that personal versus business, that those are two separate entities. And for me, I love to keep it separate. But yes, knowing that her work ethic, it still took some time. It wasn't automatic.
Right.
It still took some discussions, some phone calls, to really find out, how she was continuing to make Bridge to College strong, and what her ultimate goal was. And so there were many meetings. Though
you asked the questions, all the I questions.
All the I questions.
Did your due diligence.
And that was it, and it met all those I's.
Right.
In terms of inclusivity, impact, what her intent was, and then the investment piece, obviously the return on investment. So all those were laid out. And plus, education, right? This is what's key. And even for me growing up, and for her also, we didn't have control of our environment, but we subsequently had control of our education. And for both her and I, we did not go to HBCUs. So we
Right.
went to colleges that we were the 2%. So being the 2% in the non-HBCU colleges were some challenges. And those were some of the things that we shared in discussing before the actual investment was made, was that I wish we had this type of tool for when we were looking for colleges to go to. It could have saved us money. It
Right.
could have saved us time.
Right. Well, a lot of people ask me, my cousin and them
And them.
starting something.
Stop.
People hear you writing checks.
Oh.
Everybody come calling.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't just go for the okie doke like that.
I mean, there's criteria.
There is.
There is a level of every business is not a venture. And it's totally fine to be a small business.
Absolutely.
A mom and pop.
Absolutely.
There's many types of businesses that exist.
Absolutely.
And one thing, particularly with Black women, is that, when Black women start going this route into venture capital, they end up with less than 5% equity in their companies. Right?
It gets diluted.
It gets
diluted. So, right.
Right. And explain the process of dilution.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I'm sure there's a medical term, but in the investing term.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I do a lot of community advocacy work, and I work, not only the clinical work, but also working with many community partnerships and seeing the strength in each of the organizations. So I've always felt like there is strength in numbers. Right? But you have to be on the same page. Like,
Right.
What is that common goal? Because otherwise, then what happens is you end up diluting your strength. And so let's now take it to investments. That, if you start having too many come in, right, and you really don't have a strong plan in place in terms of or organization, transparency, making things very clear and looking at your numbers, then you can find yourself not holding or not having much ownership within the company that you created.
Right. And the detriment is that when Black founders have an exit and acquisition, they still got to go to work the next day.
Absolutely.
Right? They're not, like, oh, I'm a billionaire, millionaire, I'm just going to be an angel investor now. VC. No. It's like, oh, I got to get a new job. I mean, that paid a car note.
Right. And you're still in the same position.
Exactly.
And those are just, again, the hurdles at which, I think investing, and this is why what you've been able to create is so strong and valuable, because it brings in, it's transformative, but transformative in a positive light, and then also brings value to the venture capitalist space. Yeah. I'm still learning. I didn't know, like I said, we didn't know what angel investor terminology was. I didn't know what VC was. I just was knowing that there was just plenty of money going into spaces that wasn't ours.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or that we were, I would say, non-financially investing in companies that weren't investing in us. We were helping people build their companies without equity.
In return.
Right? And this is 40 acres and a mule.
Right.
We said you're going to get something. We didn't get it. We didn't make it.
Yeah.
And we can't build. I mean, it's debilitating.
It is. And tomorrow is the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa race massacre.
Right.
So as we're having this conversation,
It's how you